What's up, everybody? Let's Talk Jets Radio. Quick video here breaking down my NFL power rankings ahead of week one. Going to start at 32, work my way up to number one. Also touch on some of the Super Bowl odds according to DraftKings. So I'm going to start at number 32 with the Houston Texans, who I think are the worst team in football right now. I do think that Lovie Smith, Nick Caserio, they can eventually get that thing turned around. But for the next at least 2 years, things are going to be rough. A lot of talk coming out of camp about running back Dameon Pierce. He looks legit, powerful, explosive. Problem is, how do you take the attention away from him with Davis Mills at quarterback? I think that's going to be a problem. Going to 31, I have the Atlanta Falcons. We saw the Falcons during the joint practices with the Jets. Kyle Pitts is just so damn good. The problem is who's going to throw him the football. Right now, Mariota is listed as the starter. Seems like only a matter of time before that, things kind of unravel and Desmond Ridder eventually gets a shot there. You go to number 30, which is the Seattle Seahawks, 150 to 1 odds there. Tough, trying to start a new era after what Russell Wilson gave you for so many years. A lot of pressure on Pete Carroll to get that defense playing at a high level. They traded 2 first-round picks for Jamal Adams. Hasn't exactly worked out. He's been injured. He's struggled in coverage, not really living up to that contract. They could definitely use an infusion of some young talent right now as well. Offensively, you got Lockett, you got Metcalf, which should be good. But Geno Smith, can he resurrect his career at this point? I'm rooting for the kid. He was a Jet for a while, and obviously things didn't go too well when he was here. But it seems like he's had the opportunity to sit, to watch, to learn. It seems like he's matured a little bit as well. So I'm rooting for him, but I think the Seahawks are in for a rough year. Going to 29, I have the New York Giants. They're at 130 to 1. Really like Dable. I think he's also going to get that thing turned around with the Giants, kind of restore some of that tradition that they've always had there. But for this year, it's going to be tough. Daniel Jones right now listed as the starter. I think at some point Tyrod Taylor eventually is going to play. You got Kenny Golladay on a contract that just looks absurd right now, making like $14 million a year. Didn't have 1 touchdown last year. Only a matter of time before I think he's out. At least they do have Kadarius Toney, who's been making some plays. At least he did as a rookie last year and as well in the summer this year. Going to 28, I got the Chicago Bears. You guys know, if you follow this show from going back to the 2020 draft, I was a huge fan of Justin Fields. I love his arm talent. I love his game. I love his mobility. But I just don't think the Bears have anything around him right now. You wonder if he's actually even going to be able to make it through a full 17-game schedule with the state of the offensive line and pretty much no weapons across the board. So I think the Bears are definitely going to struggle. You also have the contract dispute with Roquan Smith. Is there any lingering feelings there as, week one approaches? He sat out all of training camp, requested a trade, but it seems like things have somewhat improved, I guess, if he's going to be there for week one. 27, I got Jacksonville, 130 to 1 odds there. They spent more money this offseason in terms of guarantees than any team in history prior to that. You wonder how much of an impact those moves are actually going to make. Tons of money on Cam Robinson, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk. How much does that really move the needle? All in all, though, I think it's important that they did give Trevor Lawrence some legitimate weapons. Just after all the mess from last year with Urban Meyer, they also brought in Doug Peterson, who's got that Super Bowl winning resume. I think he's going to help Trevor Lawrence just kind of steady things. He was able to. Peterson was able to do a good job in his time with Philadelphia with Wentz. I think he's going to do the same thing with Trevor Lawrence. Going to 26, I got the Detroit Lions here, and this might be a Hard Knocks pick. But I love the attitude, the aggression, just like the physical nature of what Campbell talks about and what he's instilling in these players. I think you're going to see a team that's young, that's hungry, that's feisty. They've got some pieces on defense as well. Aiden Hutchinson, 2nd overall pick. He could be Defensive Rookie of the Year. They're getting Jeff Okudah back as well, 2020 3rd overall pick. He had the Achilles tear last year. He was out for the year. So I think getting those 2 pieces back, you got Koff, who's the steady veteran at quarterback. You can lean on Swift in the run game. I think the Lions have a lot more pieces than some people talk about. I don't think they're going to get blown out of many games this year. Going to 25, I have the New York Jets. I'm sure Jet fans will say, I didn't put them high enough. I'm sure most other football fans will say they should have been lower. I think the roster is significantly improved. I like what Joe Douglas has done, especially in the draft this year. I think they've added some talent in free agency as well. The biggest questions still remain at head coach and whether or not Coach Saleh can ultimately coach the entire team as well as the defense. And then Zach Wilson, what kind of leap do you get from him in year 2? He had the knee injury last year, came back for the last 4 or 5 games, played pretty well, but then gets another knee injury to start training camp. Looks like he's going to miss week 1. Who knows where he's at when he comes back? So that's something to watch there. 24, I have the Carolina Panthers right now. I think Baker just brings that, that little bit of swag that the Panthers haven't really had. That, and you also get Christian McCaffrey back. It looks like he's in full health right now. Last 2 years, he's kind of been banged up a little bit. Had a very heavy workload early in his career. So I think just having him fresh, ready to go, it makes all the difference. They were 3-0 last year prior to him getting hurt, and then the season just completely went in the tubes after that. So if they have a healthy Christian McCaffrey all year, I think the Panthers could actually make some noise. But there is a lot of pressure on Matt Rule. Year 4, he's got to make the playoffs. Going to 23. Got the Washington Commanders, 70-1 here with Ron Rivera. Last 2 years, that team has won 7 games with a quarterback carousel. And you add Carson Wentz, who's coming off a good year with the Colts. He doesn't have that offensive line, though. He doesn't have Jonathan Taylor. He does have Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson. He's had a nice camp. The question is on the offensive line, though. They lost Brandon Scherf. Can they keep Carson Wentz healthy? Defensively, they also have Chase Young, who's going to start the year on the PUP list. I think he's missing like 4 or 5 games. So where's he going to be at off the torn ACL from last year when he comes back? Going to 22, Cleveland Browns. What a turnaround here. A couple of years ago, I always talk about this, like when they won the first game against the Jets, I think it was 2016 or 2017, and they open up the beer fridge, and, everyone's excited, everyone's going nuts, their first win in 2 years. A year or two later, they make the playoffs, end the 18-year drought. They were the lovable losers that everyone was able to get behind. And then they trade for Deshaun Watson. They give him all that guaranteed money. Now he's going to be out for the first 11 games. What does Jacoby Brissett bring to the table? Can he keep them afloat until Watson comes back? Obviously, they do have some high-end talent with Nick Chubb, Myles Garrett on the defensive side. But can they get enough at quarterback? And that's the question with a lot of these teams on the back end right now. What do you get at the quarterback position? Going to 21, I'm dropping the Tennessee Titans a little bit here. I hate to do that because I like Vrabel, and it's so hard to bet against what Derrick Henry does every single year. But they did lose Harold Landry, their top pass rusher for the season. They traded A.J. Brown. How exactly do they replace all that? It kind of feels like, their time is coming to an end. Other teams in the AFC are starting to catch up talent-wise. Ryan Tannehill, it seems like this might be his last year with Malik Willis playing well in preseason. So pay attention to that. Going to 20, I have the New England Patriots here. And this is another team that I feel like probably should be a little bit higher just based on Belichick and what he's proven that he could do throughout his career. Last year was one of his better coaching performances, and that's saying a lot when you got 6 Super Bowl rings, taking a rookie quarterback to 10-7, making the playoffs. But they have drafted poorly over the last 4 or 5 years. At some point, you would think that's going to affect your roster. Going to 19, I have the New Orleans Saints here. Trying to replace Sean Payton after 16 years, not going to be easy. They went internally with Dennis Allen. Looks like Kamara is going to avoid suspension. Looks like Michael Thomas is healthy, so that should help. Demario Davis, Lattimore, they have some pieces on defense. Question is, again, at quarterback, can Jameis Winston avoid all the costly mistakes that have kind of plagued his career so far? Going to 18, I've got the Pittsburgh Steelers. Steelers are actually at 90-1 odds, so I moved them up quite a bit here, mainly because I feel like there are a few examples in sports that define consistency better than what Mike Tomlin has been able to do since he's taken over as head coach. He's never had a season where he's finished under 500. I know he's had Roethlisberger for, most of that. But, with what they have on defense between T.J. Watt, Minkah Fitzpatrick, offensively, a great trio of weapons with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, and arguably the steal of the draft with George Pickens, I feel like Tomlin's going to find a way to make it work, whether it's, with Mitch Trubisky or eventually Kenny Pickett takes over, but they also have Najee Harris in the ground game to lean on as well. I just think the Steelers have way too much talent not to at least compete in that AFC North. Going to 17, Miami Dolphins, 40-1. A lot of hype coming out of Miami right now. I like the talent that they have. Jalen Waddle, Tyreek Hill, arguably the most explosive 1-2 punch in all of football. Hard for defenses to match that kind of speed. The biggest question is, can Tua actually reach them on some of those deep balls? So I think that's something to watch. Crucial year for Tua. He's obviously got to step up. It seems like Miami's kind of been planning all these different ways to replace him if things don't work out. But they have been hyping him up all summer. Mike McDaniel, his first year as a head coach, how does he do? Going to 16, I got the Arizona Cardinals here. It's going to be tough to overcome the suspension for DeAndre Hopkins. He's going to be out the first 6 games. You also wonder a little bit about, all the language in Kyler Murray's contract, why they had to put the independent study clause in there to begin with. You also have Cliff Kingsbury, who since 2013 as a head coach, and this is also going back to college, he's never had a second half of a season where he's finished above 500. So at some point, he's got to be able to get his team to finish strong, make the playoffs, and actually win in the playoffs. Going to 15, I got the Las Vegas Raiders here. And, Derek Carr just seems like quietly every single year he gets better and better and better, and he rarely gets the recognition that he deserves. Now you give him Devontae Adams on top of Renfro and Waller. I think Derek Carr's in for a monster year. Max Crosby's been playing out of his mind on the defensive side. They added Chandler Jones opposite him. So I think the Raiders should be able to compete for a playoff spot. The problem is they're the first team I've mentioned in the AFC West right now. So that entire division is the best in football, I think, by a mile. But where do the Raiders stack? Can they actually move past maybe the Broncos? Can they compete with the Chargers for one of those wild card spots? I think there's a good chance that 2 wild card spots actually come out of that division. Going to 14, I have the Minnesota Vikings. Normally in the past, I would totally laugh at the idea of, getting behind Kirk Cousins and, him having a big year, taking Vikings to the playoffs and doing big things. But it feels like this year, there might be some magic in Minnesota. Cousins has been playing out of his mind the last 2 years, over 4,000 yards, limited mistakes, tons of touchdowns. Him and Jefferson have a great connection. They still have Thielen, who I think still has a little bit left in the tank. What do you get on the defensive side of the ball? I think that's something to watch. New head coach Kevin O'Connell replacing Zimmer after, I think, 6 or 7 years. How does he start out? It seems like he's bringing a lot of energy and creativity there to Minnesota, from what I've been reading. Going to 13, I'm putting the Denver Broncos here. Russell Wilson, he's going to try to do the Peyton Manning path, win a second Super Bowl, second team. He's got the weapons to do it. I think Jerry Jeudy, he's had 2 rough years. He's only combined for 90 catches his first 2 seasons after, being selected in the first round, arguably the top wideout in that draft. And I feel like he's going to probably surpass that this year alone. Having a steady presence at quarterback, I think that's going to help. A lot of pressure on Bradley Chubb this year, entering a potential contract year. He's had a lot of injuries the last few years. Pat Surtain, I think, has the potential to be one of the best cornerbacks in all of football. So the Broncos do have a lot of talent. It's just, how quickly does it come together, and how do they compete in that AFC West? Going to 12, I have the Philadelphia Eagles. I think the NFC East is probably going to come down to the last week or two with them and the Cowboys. I love the addition of A.J. Brown, pairing him with Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. That's just a lethal trio. You add in the athleticism that Jalen Hurts brings at quarterback. A lot of questions, at least for me, on defense, especially on the back end. I think they have some pass rushers that can get after the quarterback. I don't know if they have the guys in coverage that could do it. Going to 11, I got the Dallas Cowboys here, slightly ahead of the Eagles. A lot of pressure on McCarthy this year to do something big, earn the trust of Jerry Jones. They traded away Amari Cooper. I think that's going to hurt. Michael Gallup, he's still working his way back from the ACL injury that he had last year. Tyron Smith, he's already down, I think, for the year, if not at least for a couple months. So a lot of moving pieces early on to start the season for Dallas. You wonder how they start out. But they do have 2 studs on defense, Trayvon Diggs, Micah Parsons, second and third year players that just been playing out of their minds. Going to number 10, San Francisco 49ers. I think this is a team that legitimately could actually make a Super Bowl run if Trey Lance is legit at quarterback. The roster is talented, and we know what Kyle Shanahan can do. It's a quarterback-friendly offense. They've got pieces. They salvaged Deebo Samuel after all the contract talk. They still have George Kittle, Nick Bosa, plenty of weapons, plenty of talent on this roster. Big question is, what do you get out of Trey Lance, and are they willing to make the switch to Jimmy G if things aren't working out? Going to number 9, I'm moving the Colts up a little bit here. They're at 25-1, so I'm pushing them up a little bit to number 9. I think they're one of the more well-run organizations in football, at least the past few years. They've drafted as well as anybody. The Jets trade, obviously, with Darnold and all those second-round picks kind of helped that too. But Quentin Nelson and that ground game with Jonathan Taylor, you can almost put any veteran quarterback under center, and that offense is going to move the football. So I think Matt Ryan, he's got enough left in the tank to kind of keep things going the way they have been under Wentz and Phillip Rivers. Going to number 8, I'm actually dropping the Bucs a little bit here. They're 7-1 odds. I'm pretty sure that's second on DraftKings. So I'm listing them at number 8. At some point, Tom Brady has to lose it. I've been saying that every single year since, he was probably like 34, 35 years old. He's 45 now, so I've been wrong, 11, 12 times. But, he's got the personal issues going on. Clearly, wife's not happy at home. You wonder how that might affect things. He's missed, a week, 10 days of training camp. Does that have any effect? Clearly, he's got a ridiculous trio with Godwin, Mike Evans, Julio Jones. That's going to be tough for defenses to contain. Head coach, Todd Bowles, a lot of pressure on him. His first stint with the Jets didn't go so well. Didn't have a whole lot of talent there, but it also seemed like he was never really the guy that would hold players accountable. So you go to Bruce Arians, and he's done a great job there, won a Super Bowl. Can Todd Bowles be more than just a great defensive coordinator? Something to watch. Number 7, I've got the Baltimore Ravens at 20-1 here. Again, another organization that just does everything right. Harbaugh's only finished under 500 2 years in his entire career. Lamar Jackson, for some reason, doesn't have a contract yet. I don't think it's going to affect him. He's still a top 10 quarterback for me. They're getting J.K. Dobbins back. They lost Brown at receiver, but they still have, Mark Andrews, Devin Duvernay, Rashad Bateman. They have weapons to work with, and I'll make the case that the Ravens have the best secondary, or one of the best secondaries in all of football. You could put them right there with anybody. They signed Marcus Williams this offseason, drafted Kyle Hamilton, and have a nice deep group of corners. Going to number 6, I got the Bengals here. And I actually think the Ravens really could compete for the AFC North. You wonder, now that the Bengals aren't really catching anybody by surprise, can they maintain what they did in January of last year? Obviously, you love the connection with Burrow and Jamar Chase. They still have T. Higgins. They still have Taj Boyd, even though they lost Uzomah to the Jets. But that Bengals team clearly, I think, overperformed last year. But the experience that they gained, you wonder if they can carry that over into this year while teams are kind of, going to be gunning for them. Number 5, I got the LA Chargers here. They lost 3 or 4 last year, missed the playoffs, disappointing year. They added J.C. Jackson, which I think is going to be big, top corner. Added Khalil Mack opposite Joey Bosa. So I think that defense is going to play at a high level. Clearly, Justin Herbert's a top 5 quarterback. He's got weapons to work with. It would be a major surprise if the Chargers aren't at least competing and pushing the Chiefs for that division. Going to number 4, I'm putting the Packers here out of respect to Aaron Rodgers, but the loss of Davante Adams is probably going to hurt. Yes, they have, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones to kind of lean on in the ground game. That should help. Defense has been playing well the last few years. That should help. If there's anybody that can adjust to the loss of Davante Adams, it's probably Aaron Rodgers. But it wouldn't surprise me at all if, you see teams like, the Vikings maybe push the Packers for that NFC North. But again, I'm not betting against Aaron Rodgers. He's just too good. I think he's going to find a way to make it work, and the Packers will probably win that division again. Going to number 3, Kansas City Chiefs. Again, this is another one that's kind of out of respect to start the season with Andy Reid and Pat Mahomes. Although, like I said, I think the Chargers and other teams in that division are quickly closing the gap. You wonder how the trade of Tyreek Hill is going to affect things. Defenses were clearly adjusting last year, playing more of the 2 high safety looks, taking that away, forcing Mahomes to go 8, 9, 10 plays to drive the field. This year, now you don't have Tyreek Hill. You're almost kind of forced into that mode. So you wonder how Mahomes is going to adjust there. Still has Travis Kelce to work with, one of probably the best tight end in all of football. So I think the Chiefs are going to be fine. But there is a lot more talent in the division, so you wonder whether or not they could still push for that 12, 13 win type of season. Whoever wins that division might be only 11 wins because they're all going to be knocking each other off. Buffalo Bills coming in at number 2. They're actually listed as the favorites right now on DraftKings to win the Super Bowl. They just inked Von Miller, 6 years, $120 million. I just love everything about Buffalo and what they've done, how they've surrounded Josh Allen with talent, how they've set him up for success. Unfortunately, they lost Brian Daboll. This is going to be Allen's first year without him. You wonder if that has an impact. And they lost Cole Beasley, Emmanuel Sanders. Gabe Davis, though, he had the 4-touchdown, 200-yard game against the Chiefs in the playoffs, so he's going to start opposite Diggs. I just feel like the Bills have all the pieces to make a nice run this year and actually get past the Chiefs. And then I'm going number 1. I'm sticking with the LA Rams, defending Super Bowl champions. I think that they deserve the respect to be there. Matthew Stafford proved that he is a top 10 quarterback when he's in the right system with the right pieces. Now you add Allen Robinson opposite Cooper Kupp. That's going to be a problem on top of what you already have on defense with Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey, who are top 10 defensive players as well. So I think that Sean McVay has a very good chance to get to his 3rd Super Bowl and win his 2nd. So hope you guys enjoyed. This was a little bit long. I'll try my best to update this every couple weeks throughout the year. Talk to you guys later.